Welcome, hey, welcome to yet another C Group session. We are hearing some fantastic things from our C Groups, and I trust that you're building some great relationships as you take a step closer to Christ, as your soul becomes more alive. And my guess is that as you're stepping closer to Christ, you're also stepping closer to each other, which is the way that C Groups are designed. So let me ask you a question. What do you think about when I say the words Holy Spirit? Some people may think of a dove, or some people may think of the Holy Spirit being a guide like our conscience, or some may think of speaking in tongues, or maybe when you hear the words Holy Spirit, you think of this preacher like waving his hand and people falling down and people shaking and sometimes people getting healed and just some things that just seem really kind of odd or different to you, right? Well, the Holy Spirit is mysterious and is really often misunderstood. Now, because it's misunderstood, it's a lot of times, honestly, the Holy Spirit is ignored, and that's really a shame. You know, one of my earliest experiences with the Holy Spirit came, oddly enough, at Bob Evans. I was a really young Christian, and I was meeting with a guy who was doing some mentoring with me, and I was really young. I was in my teenage years, I think, and he just looked across the table. We were having dinner, and he said, well, do you have the Holy Spirit? I'm like, I think so. You know, I've become a follower of Jesus, I think so. And he's like, well, we need to pray that you'd have the Holy Spirit. And I'm like, well, I think maybe I have, but I don't know. And he's like, well, let's go pray you'd have the Holy Spirit. And I'm like, right now? And he's like, yeah, right now. So we stood up in the middle of Bob Evans and we're walking through Bob Evans. It's crowded because it's dinner. And I'm like, this guy's going to pray for me to get the Holy Spirit. I don't really know what that means. I thought maybe I had it, but maybe I don't. I don't know. And so as we're walking out, he sees a guy that he knows. And so he yells across a crowded restaurant to this guy and says, hey, Charlie, come on out. We're going to pray out that this guy gets the Holy Spirit. I'm like, what in the world? So these guys took me out to a parking lot in Bob Evans and began to pray for me and begin to pray over me and say, so you want to pray that you'd have the Holy Spirit, so you just go ahead and speak in tongues right now. And I said, and they said, you go ahead and speak in tongues right now. And I said, and that was kind of like my first experience with the Holy Spirit. And it was just very different for me. Now, yes, the Holy Spirit is mysterious, but it doesn't have to be confusing. The Holy Spirit is this phenomenally beautiful gift that God has given to us. Now, the role of the Holy Spirit is to help us to take a step closer to Christ. It's that simple. The Holy Spirit glorifies Christ, and it's designed to help us take a step closer to Him. So today in our C Groups, we're going to look at some verses that talk about the Holy Spirit and what the Holy Spirit does. Now, this session might raise a lot more questions in your mind. That's okay. Again, understanding the Holy Spirit doesn't have to be confusing. God gave us this gift so that we could take a step closer to Him. Jesus thinks incredibly highly of the Holy Spirit, and we should as well. So today, as you explore this great gift, my prayer is that the Holy Spirit might ignite your life and cause you to take one step closer to Him.